recorded, and I'll take the sedance for this meeting of the Equal Opportunities Forum held on the 8th of May 2024. I can see that we have present Councillors Kalikis and Clark. I have apologies from Councillor Corbett, and I can see that Councillor Lockhart has joined as a substitute. Also present today are Councillors Cowie and Ferguson. Councillor McAdams? I'm not seeing you present. Also present today are Councillors McGeever, Razak, Robb and Thompson. We have a number of officers present, and with that I'll pass you back to the Chair to commence today's business. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I firstly get the declarations of interest? There's none. 2, the minutes for the previous meeting, pages 3 to 8. They agreed. And 3, annual report on mainstreaming equalities and diversity, community and enterprise resources, page 9 to 26. And can I invite Alison Brown to speak?
Thank you, Chair. The paper in front of you provides a strategic and operational review of the work undertaken by community and enterprise resources to meet commitments to the Mainstreaming Equalities Progress Report 2021 to 2023. The background is set out in paragraph 3 and just highlights the 3 equality outcomes approved by the Council. Community and enterprise lead on equality outcome number 2, which is related to older people and those from vulnerable groups and individuals who live alone and are protected from scams and nuisance calls, and their well-being is improved through increased awareness and preventative action. Over the last year, a number of activities have taken place in regards to this equality outcome, and those are set out in paragraph 4.1.1, including no cold calling stickers, 40 true call telephone blockers, which have blocked over 3,000 nuisance calls, and 6 video doorbells have been fitted. And there's also been presentations delivered by Trading Standards to Police Scotland in relation to seniors together and sheltered housing. Across the resource, however, we continue to mainstream all equalities and not just equality outcome 2. And some of that activity is set out in paragraph 5. So in 5.2, we go on to highlight that there have been no complaints since the last annual report in terms of mainstreaming equalities. Some of the other activities in terms of children's and young people, 5.3.2, we highlight the activities of facility services around school meals, and colleagues in environmental services have also been undertaking works around vapour products, and we're going to talk further about that this afternoon. The planning service have been developing out work around the statutory planning process and LDP3, and there is ambitions to engage more widely around improving communities and improving the lives of individuals in those communities. In recent months, there's been reports by the Road Service around pavement parking to improve accessibility for all. In terms of equalities, impact assessments and Fairer Scotland duties, those are set out in 6.2, and there's 9 EQIAs being undertaken across the resource. It's worth highlighting to the committee around the consultation and engagement, and that's set out in section 9, and some of the groups that we've been working with, including the Gypsy Travelling Community. And with that, I just take the committee back to the recommendation, and that is to approve the report and note the work undertaken by community and enterprise resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Clark.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Alison for that report. My question would be on page 25, when it references inspections. And my question is really about the contraventions, particularly I think the consumer safety related ones. What kind of contraventions are these? Just looking for a bit more information on that. And it also seems like quite a high amount of contraventions were found for the amount of inspections that there was. Would that be a correct assumption? I don't know if these are the bulk of the contraventions are spread across multiple visits, or that includes multiple in one. It's just a bit more information on that would be helpful.
I'm on. Yeah. Hi. Primarily, the contraventions are to do with initial visits. So it can range from not having appropriately marked toys to weights and measures stuff as well that again is maybe falls under that we've found to be inadequate. For instance, going to shops and find kind of items that are below weight. Other things, I'm going to go into enforcement regarding vapes, but there's some requirements to have things like displays, kind of advertising, displaying what ages, for instance, like sort of vapes under 18s. You can't sell vapes or tobacco products under 18. So it covers a whole wide ambit of legislation which we enforce and we find kind of contraventions where we will do follow-up visits.
Yeah, thank you, and apologies, I forgot to remove the slider in front of my camera, but my face is here now, but thank you for that info.
Thank you. Grant? No, sorry, Bert.
Thanks for letting me in, Grant. Mo, 2 quick questions, please. The one about the doorbells there, I spoke to constituents here about doorbells and they think it's invaluable to elderly people. Any chance that can be rolled out? The second one's parking the pavement. Unfortunately, the dealings I've had, I don't know yourself, is that the police are saying they've not really got the manpower or time to pursue it, and the council are saying the thing, looking at advising you to chase each other up. Any advice on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of doorbells, that's something that we'll pick up. However, I appreciate how valuable it is, but there is budgetary pressures on that. But happy if you've got any particular names or addresses that you'd like us to liaise with, and we can certainly look into that. In terms of the enforcement of on-street parking, that I know that colleagues in road services are looking to bring a further paper back to enterprise and community resources. On that matter, there is challenges around enforcement, and I think both ourselves and the police have been acknowledging that, but that's something that roads will be coming back to committee on in due course.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bert. Grant?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you. I've got a question with regards to page number 12, and it's section 7.2.3. Just where it says there, the resource will continue to ensure that employees are made aware of the neurodiversity officer role and the availability of British Sign Language or BSL officers. Now, just a quick question, actually, with regards to the BSL, British Sign Language officers. What does that actually mean? For me, I'm not actually clear. Is it an officer or is it an interpreter? Or what? Could you actually maybe explain what the BSL officers are? Thank you.
Hi, Councillor Ferguson, it's Alison Bell here. Can I just pick up on the neurodiversity officer role? That is part of somebody within my team's role, and we are rolling that out and will continue to do so over the coming months. The availability of British Sign Language officers, we're not going to have officers as such because we need as many people as possible in the council to be aware of British Sign Language and also be aware of providing information as widely as possible using BSL. We are going to talk later about our plan, the next BSL plan, and that will be something which we will be developing for the local plan for South Lanarkshire going forward. So perhaps we can talk to you about that as well, as to how we can best take forward the whole information about BSL and raise employee awareness.
No, that's. Well, thank you, Alison. Just obviously for me, I was just not understanding what a BSL officer. I don't know if it was. It just seemed that there was somebody employed. I think if somebody looking at that might think that there would be somebody employed as a BSL officer, or somebody who could sign to a specific level, or could it be an interpreter? So that was just my little bit of confusion. I'm not sure if officer would be the right one. It was just a bit of clarification on that. So thank you very much.
Can I just come back in there? Again, I have another member of staff who is a BSL user and who is proficient and delivers BSL awareness training in the council to accredited levels 1 and 2. But obviously BSL is his first language, so we do rely on sort of taking advice and guidance from him as we go forward.
Just to come in there, sorry, Alison. Sorry, Chair. Just last question. So that's great. Obviously, I think if you've just got the one person, and that's fantastic that you have. I think obviously using the word officers might intimate there might be more than one. So I think if it just says officer, then or there might be more than one eventually. So that might be a good thing.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Hi, Councillor Grant Ferguson. It's Michelle Milne from Personnel, and good to speak with you. We are very keen to get your input and your experiences as part of the work that we will take forward in terms of consultation and engagement on the plan, and making sure we get as comprehensive an action plan as we possibly can in terms of taking this work forward and building on the work that has been carried out. I think that's an important point that you raised there, just in terms of clarity, because the devil is in the detail, just in terms of whether we have tasks and roles that form part of people's other bits of their jobs, or if someone is solely dedicated to that. So we will pick that up and we can clarify that. But again, it would be great to meet with you and catch up just in terms of getting some input into the action plan going forward.
Grant, the exec committee had passed the. Oh, sorry, apologies.
No, it was just to say I'm more than happy to meet up. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sorry, I was
Thank
too
you,
busy
sir.
looking at the note and I wasn't looking it up.
That's all right.
I was going to say the exec committee had passed the BSL plan, and that's coming to the next meeting. But I would say that it would be good, see if we can get some more staff members on the BSL course, because that would only benefit us in the council. Any other questions? No. Okay, this is for noting anyway. We'll go on to item 4, nicotine vaping products, NVPs, and underage sales enforcement. Can I ask George Curry?
Just wait for the slide to come up. Hi, my name is George Curry. As you can see, I'm Consumer and Trading Standards section, the visual there. And I'm being asked to come to you to talk about nicotine vaping products enforcement. And so doing, I'll give you a bit of context as to why, as a local authority, we should be using our powers to the fullest and try to stop children getting easy access to vapes. So what are vapes? Well, vapes are NVPs and e-cigarettes. And for those of you who don't know, vapes are non-combustible products which contains nicotine. The vaping liquid is heated via a heating element using a battery to produce a vapour, which is then inhaled by the user. Unfortunately, vapes, like cigarettes in the past, are becoming more attractive to young people. So why are we concerned about the sale of vapes to children? So ironically, vapes were developed as a healthier alternative to cigarettes, but marketing and the opportunities for increasing sales in a declining cigarette market has seen an explosion of these products on the market. But how healthy are vapes, and do they have any long-term impact on the user, especially our children? As you can see, the future does not look bright or healthy for children who are starting vaping. So we can see most vaping products, Ash Scotland did a bit of research and found that some of the vapes were quite toxic. BBC investigations found unsafe levels of lead, nickel and chromium in vapes confiscated from children. And Dr Mike McLean at the Royal College of Paediatrics and Children's Health says vaping is fast becoming an epidemic among children, and I fear that if action is not taken, we'll find ourselves sleepwalking into a crisis. So that's the health kind of issues that we're looking at. So I see it as our duty to make things as difficult as possible for businesses who profit from illegal sale of vapes to children. But as you see in the next slide, vapes are purposely attracted to children. So from that you can see the marketing of the vapes, particularly with the flavours. We've walked by many people in the street and you can smell all sorts like candy, bubble gum, menthol, raspberry, pink fizz, whatever that is, pink lemonade. And we can see that the target customers are quite clearly going to be the young, in particular children, become attracted to these types of flavourings. So how successful has the marketing been? As you can see, over 75% of respondents are currently at secondary school said they've seen other children smoking vapes. Over 500,000 users of cigarettes, e-cigarettes in Scotland. It's obviously predicted to get even further, nearly 1 million. And quite startlingly, 22% of all under 18s, which is around about 78,000, I believe, to have used vapes in the last year, with more young people using them than using smoking cigarettes. So apart from the obvious health concerns, what does underage vaping have in the community? So we've had some complaints. We've received 45 complaints in the last year from the likes of the police, elected members, MPs, members of the public, etc. In itself, that might not seem that large, but if you think about your constituents who have perhaps contacted you in the past, like one elected member perhaps represents 5, 6, 10 constituents, with the police as well, head teachers. So it's actually, the 45 kind of represents a significant number of complaints, and certainly is an issue within our local authority. It also has an impact in litter as well. We've seen all sorts of, we've seen, there's just an example there where we've seen vapes kind of just lying about in the street. And the thing is with vapes is that they contain they contain lithium-ion batteries, which the last thing you want to do is throw them away and dispose of them in landfill. And the other thing is just lying in the road. I don't know if you've seen them, but I've seen them lying in the road, kind of wee blue things, kind of lighting up in the road at night, and people have driven over them, and unfortunately they have exploded. So there is quite a kind of an issue of the disposal of these single-use vapes. So how do we stop the vapes getting into the hands of young people and perhaps limiting the number of times vapes are casually thrown away like used cigarette butts? So the answer is legislation. In 2010, obviously, the Tobacco and Primary Medical Services Act was put into place. So that places a duty on local authorities to enforce the legislation. Part of the requirements to run or to sell cigarettes is that there has to be a registered person who was registered with the Scottish Government to sell tobacco and vapes. There's a display ban, which you go into shops nowadays and you see, you don't see cigarettes anymore, and they're all undercover. That's a display ban. There's a requirement to say it's illegal to sell tobacco products to anyone under the age of 18. Operate an age verification policy and not to sell MVPs to children under 18. and also for us to issue them a fixed penalty notice if they are caught selling to an under 18. So turning to our enforcement, how we have previously enforced the legislation and how we are now enforcing the legislation. So previously we carried out educational visits, kind of a more kind of softly touch and kind of educational visits to the likes of small local shops, letting them know of the legislation, providing them with really all the information that they need, and perhaps also the kind of material they need to, such as posters and refusal books, etc. So when the legislation first came in force, we carried out, as I said, these educational visits. But it wasn't until COVID, when we all should have been looking after our lungs, that the vaping epidemic amongst children exploded. Given that it's illegal to sell vapes to children, the potential health issues and the increased littering, I decided to take a stricter approach to enforcement and to carry covert test purchasing using underage volunteers, and then issuing with a fixed penalty notice to anybody that we found selling to under 18s. So the results, as you can see, kind of speak for themselves. So the results actually don't contain. We did a project, carried a project during the Easter holidays, and we actually now have we've issued 48 fixed penalty notices. So what happens to repeat offenders? So we have some actions we can take regarding the repeat offenders. So we can issue a banning order, which we can ban an individual who is registered to sell tobacco and vapes. We can ban them from selling the product again. We can increase the amount of the fixed penalty notice. We can prosecute, or we can actually, one of the things I haven't actually examined yet, but looking to is reporting to the alcohol, if they sell alcohol, reporting to the committee, are they a fit and proper person to sell alcohol, and perhaps may impact a second-hand dealer's licence, so like some mobile shops and what have you. And also we're looking at doing social media call-outs for anybody that's, well, if any business is kind of blatantly kind of caught, particularly if we're taking a prosecution against them. So the future. So there's issues with the register for tobacco and nicotine products because it's individual based. It's not actually to do with the premises. So we, the Scottish Government have consulted on that, and we have kind of provided them with our thoughts on that. It should be actually, we're encouraging them to actually have a banning order which is premise based, or the register to be premise based. There's the Scottish Government are banning, they've listened to the local authorities for once, I suppose, and are now going to be banning single-use vapes. However, the market is like kind of mutating science fiction beast has come up with reusable vapes, which you can change the liquid canister. So it may or may not kind of solve some problems in terms of litter, but we'll have to wait and see how that kind of works out. So really that's kind of all I've got to say about it. What I would remind that our enforcement is not really a solution to the problem, but is actually a consequence of the problem. And as I said, we are a small part in the kind of overall strategy of improving health, and particularly when it comes to likes of children. The poorer children, the vapes are within pocket money range, so that's kind of something we have to kind of consider as well. Thanks. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Bert?
You're saying about the picture, but you mentioned small shops, and I'd like to point out that in my view, small shops are mostly responsible, and that we should be also targeting in a bigger way. I don't know if we do the larger supermarkets, etc. The Scottish Government's new introduction of single-use vapes, banning them, I think, is a good idea. And the last bit there about pricing, obviously, if pricing's got an effect, a fairly cheap pocket money range, I think we need to seriously look at that and move it to a higher cost. That's everything, Mo. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Mark? Okay, George.
Just in respect of supermarkets, we actually go around all as many businesses as possible. We don't just particularly target small shops, but we have found issues with large supermarkets as well.
Thanks very much. Bert kind of got ahead of me there because I had a similar kind of query. I'm glad to hear, George, that we do target supermarkets as well. I think sometimes in all walks of life, not just at a council level, but the kind of larger, prominent nationwide retailers kind of maybe fly somehow under the radar of scrutiny a wee bit, whereas we and maybe are held to a lesser standard in that way than local retailers. And I'm very glad to hear that that we are focusing on that. And I wonder if I agree with what you said there about pressing for a move away from a kind of individual-based kind of sanction model effectively towards something that is premise-based, and I would hope that would encourage supermarkets in particular to really focus on these issues and their own responsibilities. So more of a comment because Bert got the answer that I would have. So thank you very much, George.
Okay. So thank you for the presentation. I was going to say firstly that the vapes have got the unsafe levels of lead, nickel and chromium are the illicit vapes. That's 1 in 5 out there are illicit just now. I've been doing a bit of work with the UK government and the Scottish government over this. The thing I would also say is that just now the vapes are being sold by cafes and others that are not licensed with tobacco licence. And that's part of the problem, is the fact that virtually anybody can sell them, even in the market stalls and everything else. Until that's been dealt with properly, then that's going to be a problem. I'll go through them all, then get back to get you to reply. The difference between cigarettes and vapes is the fact that cigarettes have tar, and that causes a lot of the health implications. The problem with vapes are that they're currently in vogue, and they're currently in fashion, and that's what's the big problem is. We've got anecdotal evidence of primary school kids vaping, never mind secondary school kids vaping, and there seems to be an ignorance with some families as well with the damage it can do, and they see no wrong in it. There's been concerns raised on that, and the fact that the lithium batteries are combustible, and that's the reason the littering's been a big issue. There's been concerns raised that the £200 fine isn't high enough, because £200 fine, they can sell in the region of 50 vapes, and they've cleared that money, less than 50 vapes, I think it's 20 vapes or something. And so even if they get the £200 fine, they pay it within 14 days. It's not even a slap in the wrist, and I think we maybe need to look at that and increase that to a more substantial amount. Concerned about the 48 penalty notices, and it would be good to maybe ask the retailers that fail to set some sort of a course on selling, and that way it might help them retrain them to understand the pitfalls and the reasons why they should be more careful about it. And now, I agree with the possible removal of alcohol with anybody that's doing this continuously, but a thing that I had raised with government was the fact that just now, if you are doing a visit, you need, if I remember correctly, you need 2 people to go and do a visit, and that itself is problematic because it takes a lot of intelligence, and it takes several weeks when it's been reported for yourselves to go to the premises, close them down, take their stock off them. Then the next day, if it's organised crime, for instance, which is happening quite regularly now in our towns and cities, where they're popping back up the next day. So I think we need maybe approach the Scottish Government for maybe a simpler rule and legislation that gives you the powers to close them down and keep them closed, because I think we've had a lot of evidence come through to say that this is a huge issue, and the fact that there's a lot of illegal vapes there and they don't care who they're selling to. And until they're dealt with, then I think this problem's just going to be ongoing.
So I would agree with everything you're saying in respect of vapes. It's a massive problem, and unfortunately the profits to be made kind of blind businesses into what they're actually doing. They're selling kind of, as you know, vapes which, you know, as I said in my presentation, some of them contain nickel and lead, and unfortunately some of the stuff's coming direct over from China. Some of the local businesses are sourcing it direct from China, which basically means it hasn't gone through, well, it potentially has not gone through any of the rigorous checks that it would do if they bought the vapes from a legitimate source. So it's basically rolling the dice if you're a kid, what kind of vape are you getting? Again, so it could be counterfeit as well if they're going for their favourite brands. It's bizarre to say this, but if children are going for their favourite brand of vape, that could be counterfeited as well, because the local businesses are, well, the illegal local businesses are seeking to make as much profit as possible. In terms of increasing the fines, one of the issues with the legislation is that if we issue a fine to an individual, we're going to issue a fine to the individual, not the premises. The second time we can do it, we can raise the fine to £400. However, it has to be the same individual that sells. So that's one of the issues, and the chances are it's not. In terms of retraining, insisting on retraining, unfortunately we don't have the powers to do that. However, hopefully, well, in some instances when it comes to likes of mobile phone shops, nail bars, hairdressers, etc., we do sell the vapes, then there's not much we can do unless they're selling alcohol, or, as I said, with mobile phone shops, perhaps we can make some sort of kind of approach to the licensing board, which hopefully we haven't done yet. We are kind of thinking about it. We haven't had that many mobile phone shops illegally sell vapes, which is kind of like, well, we haven't found that yet. And overall, it's in terms of enforcing it, we use child volunteers. We use volunteers between the ages of 16 and 18 at school age, which therein lies a problem, because we'll run our projects at weekends and at holidays, and then ideally we would want to kind of do it during school time, perhaps at lunchtimes and things like that, target some premises. But as you said, the £200 fine doesn't comparison to businesses that are making a lot of money from selling these types of products to kids.
No, I totally agree with you, George. I feel for you, because I think this is an issue that's going to increase, and I think you have got one of your hands tied behind your back just now with the way the current legislation is. But at least you can see that you're proactive on this. I would ask that you maybe put on social media the pitfalls of vaping as well, and also the pitfalls of buying illicit vapes as well, because of the fact that it could lead to, you know, complications in your health with what you're inhaling. And I think normally what I've noticed is that people do take on board after a while that, you know, that vaping's good for cessation from smoking, but they're not really a product that you should be, you know, taking as a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Michelle?
Thank you. Actually, probably just repeating some of the comments that have been made earlier, and George actually answered one of the questions I was going to ask around for repeated offences, if fines increase, so that was helpful. Thanks very much. And I suppose just to make comment that in legislation terms, this is relatively new. I think it's a new and complex problem facing children, young people and adults, actually, in terms of trying to manage this. And that the council is compliant in terms of that legislation, and from having had some conversations with George, I know that it's a bit of a pincer movement in terms of the activities that the team is taking in terms of trying to tackle this. and they are very good at kind of evaluating those situations as well in terms of where maybe more work is needed, building on that, seeing what is successful, because it is a bit of a new issue that you're faced with dealing with. But just also to say thank you, I did find the presentation really interesting and informative just in terms of the issues that are out there.
Thank you, Michelle. The other thing I would say, George, is that what we had fed back in my wearing my other hat was that in order to take some of them off the streets, they should have put a deposit on them. So if it's £1 deposit on it, then there wouldn't be any littering in the streets. That would have helped.
So businesses are actually that sell sell products that have batteries in them. I think there's a SEPA requirement for them to provide a way of disposing with them. You'll see them in supermarkets. When you go to supermarkets, there'll be a place to dispose of your batteries. So likewise, there should be in every shop that sells, as my understanding, every shop that sells likes of vapes should have a place where you can dispose of them as well. However, you're asking children and adults as well, not picking the children, asking them to dispose of them in a kind of the proper way, which is very difficult for them to do because they won't just throw them away like a cigarette butt.
I think the legislation's changing because I think that just now is if you have 120,000 units a year, then you're not required to take back. But if it's over 120,000 units, then you're required to register under WE, I think it's called. And I think that's changing to that everybody's required to take them back. Thank you very much. The date of the next meeting is 7th of August, and there's no urgent business. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming.